Hey, everybody. Let's go ahead and unmute ourselves and type in any questions, anything goes. About you, your clients, anything goes.
And go ahead, CG and Peggy.
Oh, thanks, Sam. Hey, Greg.
Hey, how are
How are
you?
you doing?
I thought that might be. I thought that might be CG.
Oh, is that what it shows? Hey, couple questions,
Sure.
please. Couple of friends. So we spoke about this person a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
She had the vestibular migraine, visual aura, and light sensitivity.
Mhm.
That's also the same person with, we talked about their home and it needed to be energetically cleaned.
Okay.
So, an update, whenever she goes to the mall, for example, or sees a lot of products, she gets overwhelmed and anxious, and she's not working currently. I mean, she took a leave of absence for a couple months to try to get back on her feet.
Okay.
So I saw her first time last weekend. Did a lot of cleaning on the basic and legs and arms. I was wondering if you can tune into her energy.
And so, what was her experience after you did the healing? Like,
Oh,
has there been feedback?
significantly better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. She even said she was able to have lighthearted conversations with her husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so like after that kind of gets cleaned up, the next thing, like the next wave that I would do is anytime you're looking at like hypersensitivities, the thing that you did that last time, you really want to clean that up really well. Like, like you did the basic, you did the arms and legs. Then the next phase would be the forehead, and then do it in like this order: the forehead, the front and back solar plexus, the main men,
Okay.
and then the perineum,
Okay.
the soles of her feet,
Mm-hmm.
and the jaws. And you want to either with pH, use blue to inhibit them, or use oils that have an inhibiting effect. So you could use like blue healer, you could use dark blue tansy or regular blue tansy, you could use German chamomile, you could use yarrow, blue blue cypress, like any of the oils that have like a blueness to them. It's an anti-inflammatory component that's in those oils. The chemical that's isolated that causes the blueness is called azulene, and azulene has an inhibiting effect on some of those centers, like not inhibiting like sedating. It's like inhibiting to regulate, like when something's overexpanded, oversensitive. The other one to use, which is probably my personal favorite, is vetiver. Like I just have them inhale vetiver on all those spots.
Yeah, I gave her the vetiver ointment, just a little bit to bring home.
Yeah.
Okay.
That should be helpful. I mean, it's good for headaches and migraines for one, but also, vetiver is very good for like helping to ground the energy. And if you think of what a migraine is, energetically, it's the main one's overactivated and shooting a bunch of energy up high, and it is literally about bringing the energy back down. Sometimes what I've used also, it's not something I do right off the bat, but like after going through and treating them for a little while, is I use tarragon. And tarragon is like very soothing, it's very calming. We use it for like shock and like stress and the digestive tract. But here you're actually, I mean, all those things are good for her, but the thing that you're using here is it's it's balancing to the autonomic nervous system, which is sympathetic, parasympathetic, and it has like a toning effect. Like we use marjoram for that a lot, but
Mhm.
here I kind of like the idea of the tarragon. Just a little bit more soothing than the marjoram would probably be. I mean, marjoram's very soothing, but it's for this kind of syndrome. Like I usually go tarragon, and it's very good for like fortifying that. And we kind of have briefly talked about this, but when we work the pattern like front heart, back heart, forehead, back head, you're working the part of the nervous system that's tied to the sympathetic nervous system. So you're
Mhm.
calming down the fight flight response, you're calming down the adrenals, you're calming things down, like you're helping to balance things out from like overactivity, overstimulation, things like that. And when you work that pattern like that, basically what happens is it makes energy start moving up so that it can be transmuted, not so much in the body, but it's like it helps to facilitate like a transmutation that goes up and out of the top of the head, right? And so here the energy is already moving up, and you could say in a way a migraine is the energy is moving up too much, like it's overwhelming to the body. So you almost want to be able to like kind of bring that energy back down. Vetiver will do it on its own, but also that pattern of the back head, forehead, back heart, front heart, which is just the reverse of the sympathetic, is the parasympathetic, and it basically helps allow energy to go down all the way down into the feet, right? So sometimes you have somebody where like if you can get them to be aware, you're like, okay, if you're practicing awareness on your body, how low does your awareness go? A lot of times people, like when I say people, like the general public, a lot of times that's not past their diaphragm. Like it is like into the chest, and then they kind of have checked out of their body. And so this is actually tied to this component of awareness, because even when you look at like anxiety or something like this, you could say it from an esoteric point of view, it is like a disconnect from awareness. Like your
Yes.
awareness has like slipped away a little bit, and it kind of it puts you in a little bit of a frenzied state, right?
Right.
And so by continually like kind of cultivating that parasympathetic activity, it allows them to come more and more into their body, and
Uh-huh.
then eventually all the way down into their feet. I mean, most people, even people who have been working it, might only get down into the legs. It takes a lot of effort to get it all the way down to the feet. And so you can work it energetically, back head, back head, forehead, back heart, front heart, or you can use that with the vetiver or the tarragon, or any of those blue oils. So
Okay.
you're working that first pattern, but then after that's done, still go back through and do that second pattern.
So first the blue oils, and then a little later on, blue oils with the vetiver, and then
Mhm.
later on do the tarragon. Uh,
I would have her use tarragon just as an inhalation. You don't necessarily have to have her breathe the whole pattern, but
okay.
you could even do this in the same session. After you've gone through and kind of cleaned all that stuff up, then work the pattern of the back head, forehead, back heart, front heart, because it will keep like regulating the flow of energy up and down.
Got it.
Because
And then
that's what the problem is. Like, if you just jump to that right off the bat, it probably wouldn't have stuck. Like you have to kind of clean everything up for a while and then get in and address the issue. But the energy is moving up too much, not enough energy coming down, or it's not pulling the energy down.
okay. And with regards to the vetiver, would the ointment work, or does she need something
Yeah.
stronger?
No, the ointment should work.
Okay. And then in terms of projections at her, even if she's not at work, there's probably still some of that. Would the Gilead be recommended for that?
The Gilead or the Tarragon should help. Yeah.
Gilead or Tarragon? Okay.
Yeah, the Tarragon should knock some of that out.
Okay, and then she's also doing the hyssop.
Perfect. Yeah, like I think it's just, you do this next phase, it's probably just going to be a little bit of time and just consistent treatment for a little while. And then there'll probably might be still be a little something that needs to be cleaned up, but you probably have nailed most of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
for
you're so
the
welcome.
help. And then one more quick one. We talked about this person months ago. She has the one with the body dysmorphia in relation to that food trauma.
Okay.
We initially just blew that, the body self-image. Is there a protocol and oil that would address that specifically?
I would treat it as trauma. Give me just a second. Hold on. And I'll come up with something for you.
Like more, is that more in relation to self-esteem?
It's probably a little bit heavier on just the trauma itself, but like sometimes it's hard to unwind some of that. So give me just a sec here. I gotta find my notes on that. There we are. Okay. Can you do a little bit of something fancy, like a little tiny bottle for her or something?
Uh-huh.
A little bit of tuberose.
Okay.
And you're kind of going to do the same pattern, like have her inhale the tuberose on the basic and then the joints of the arms and the legs. And then you're going to clean out whatever comes out. Oh, excuse me. Start with the brain, then the basic, then the arms and the legs, and then clean up just whatever kind of comes out. Like it's going to be different every time, not just from person to person, but every time you do the session on the person, just random stuff's going to come out. And so I would like to be able to say, like, if she focuses on that, it'll unwind, but it's just going to unwind old traumas.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different than just going after the traumatic energy. You're basically kind of digging out things that are buried in her unconscious or subconscious, whatever you want to call it. You're having to kind of dig those out and then kind of reconfigure some of the executive functions, which are like up in the brain. And so you'll do this for a little while, and then, probably for several sessions. And then after that, I'll walk you through how to do some stuff on the head and brain to help with the, like how she processes the information. But first you got to get rid of the trauma. Okay.
And she's willing to do some protocols on her own. So just have her do the tuberose brain basic.
Yeah, give her that little tiny bit of tuberose, like in a little 2 ml bottle. It just can be like 4 or 5 drops with a little bit of like massage oil or something, and then have her inhale it.
Okay.
And then have her follow that pattern for a while.
Brain basic, joints of arms and legs.
Yeah.
It's like the mugwort technique, huh?
It kind of. You're doing something different, but same idea. Same exact idea. And one of the things that I always like to kind of throw into that is, how like we do in Lama Yoga or Dhyan, where after you go through and you do that, you sit and be aware of the body and then inhale the oil into just parts of the body where her attention kind of grabs her, or something feels a little uncomfortable, or pains, or because you're looking for psychological energies that have physicalized in the body. And so it helps her to increase her awareness and unwinds the stuff that has accumulated over a period of time. It's actually doing that. It's actually stronger than going at the chakras. It's hard to do it on another person. You almost have to guide them through it to do it themselves.
So do the inhalations themselves.
And the practicing the awareness on the body. Like you can guide
got
them
it.
through,
Yeah.
practicing the awareness on the body, but trying to go through and clean it or whatever, it doesn't work anywhere near as well as them doing it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Greg.
You're so welcome.
See you soon.
See you in about a month.
Yes. See you, Sammy.
See you.
Hmm.
Hi,
And then-
Greg.
Hey, how
Hi.
are you, Miss Peggy?
Well, I got a question. I'm going to ask preventatively what to do prior to Thursday morning early. I have a nuclear med for an uptake of the thyroid to see what lights up and where we go for the rest of where I go from there. So I've never had nuclear med before. And so I'm thinking maybe I should do extra quercetin beforehand. And I thought, no, I'm going to ask you, what would I do beforehand and then afterward?
I would probably just like afterwards do like basil or holy basil, several drops a day, like after the fact. But beforehand, I probably wouldn't do a whole lot because part of with some of the radiation and stuff, part of what you try to do is to protect the thyroid, and so anything you'd be doing might modify the test results.
Okay.
So I would say just like probably don't do anything. I mean, you could do quercetin or something like that, but after the fact is where the treatment would come in, and kind of heavy-handed. I usually like to use holy basil in that,
I've
but
got some, like 3 or 4 drops a couple times a day?
probably 4 or 5 drops, like maybe 3 times a day
Okay,
for maybe about a week.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Hi, Sam, we love you guys.
Love
And
you
the
too.
team. Okay, thanks.
And then go ahead, Cindy, then Letty.
Hey, Miss Cindy.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
Hey, gosh, I had a cup that cedar body tonic,
Uh-huh.
cedar MSM body tonic. So the body was feeling really sick, and I
Mhm.
think the spine was out of alignment. And I did probably a whole bottle, just numerous times,
Mhm.
and I totally pulled out of it.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
I was so grateful to not have to be sick. So that was one thing.
Good for you.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that there's something going on with the spine, like some misalignment or something. There's a some numbness in the left arm and down to the hand, like lower arm and hand.
Yeah, that probably is the spine. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you suggest?
So a couple of things, like I would put marjoram directly on the spine and a little bit of the vetiver up along the base of the skull. Part of the thing with putting the vetiver on the base of the skull is you're releasing the nuchal ligament, and it's almost like it's taking pressure off some of the neck muscles and the spinal nerves just by unwinding that. And then the marjoram helps with loosening up the spinal muscles and things like that. You can always do deep inhalations with hyssop just to relax the diaphragm, which also relaxes the sternocleidomastoid. And then anything that you have that can be anti-inflammatory. Like, I would just also reduce inflammation. It could be taken internal. It doesn't have to be topical, but black cumin, chamomiles, like what do you have in the realm of anti-inflammatory stuff? Even herbal things.
I have the quercetin, and I have a lot of stuff, but I don't really I'm not familiar enough to know what oils are inflammatory.
Right.
Inflammatory.
How do you have any digestive enzymes?
No, but I was thinking to get some.
Let's maybe have you do the route of digestive enzymes and do them in between your meals rather than with your meals. And that has a pretty substantial anti-inflammatory effect, and it's good everywhere in the body. It's very good in the joints, but it's especially good for the neck. And there's that company, it's a German company, Wobezyme, and they're usually not in the same section as the digestive enzymes and health food stores. They usually are over with like the MSM and glucosamine and all that, because even though they're digestive enzymes, it's used to treat soft tissue and joint issues, because it's basically like a natural way to do like an ibuprofen, without doing ibuprofen. It's just, it has a very strong anti-inflammatory effect. It still improves digestion, but long time ago, that's what I used to use a lot for whiplash patients, is we would just put them on digestive enzymes in between the meals. And I mean, a lot of times they didn't even have to take a med orally, like a painkiller or ibuprofen or something. And so that's the route that I would go.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, you can always do, if you have Sylvester pine, you can always put several drops of Sylvester pine or black spruce on the wrist as well, because it will elevate cortisone levels, which will have an anti-inflammatory effect as well. It's not that they contain cortisone, but they make your body produce more cortisone. And over a period of time, it just keeps reducing inflammation quite a bit.
Okay. So I think maybe some of this applies to my next question. So Michael was doing, pushing a new car that doesn't work, moving it, like physically pushing it. And he hurt his back.
Okay.
And that was on Sunday. And he didn't tell me, of course. So he was, Monday he stayed home, and today he tried to work and he couldn't. And everybody at work is telling him, go get, is it a cortisone
shot? Yeah.
That shot.
Yeah, I mean, if it's really hot and inflamed, you want to do things that are cooling, but most times something like that is probably like a strain or a sprain. And so you could use the Sylvester pine or the black spruce on the wrist, like, several drops multiple times a day, but put marjoram on the area of the back where the strain is, because it's basically like it just kind of cramps up and then it just doesn't release. And so if it doesn't release, eventually it will just stay in that cramped state. He'll just get used to it, and it will just stay there and eventually turn into arthritis or just some sort of chronic back issue.
Okay, so for the marjoram, well, you told me to use marjoram on the back too. Should I use it straight or neat?
If you can handle it straight, like, which you probably can, like it's one that's usually well tolerated, you can. But if you want, you can mix it in like some alcohol and do it like a liniment, or in a lotion and do it like a lotion. But you do want to cover like a large area, not just where it hurts, but like kind of up and down, because usually, like, if it's his back, it probably went into spasm from like his hip bone all the way up into his neck. He might only feel it in a spot, but if you get in and palpate it, it's like the whole thing goes into a spasm, and it's just different degrees in different spots. And so I'd follow that thing all the way up into the neck. But if it's not well tolerated, then mix it in alcohol or lotion or something like that.
Okay, I have the marjoram TheraLotion.
Yeah, just rub that on. That's turnkey, ready to go.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And he is going to get that shot, but I was thinking, what else to do?
Yeah, so here's the issue with the cortisone shot is, you really shouldn't get very many of them in a lifetime. Sometimes they'll say 3 in a year, sometimes they'll say 3 in a lifetime. It does throw the endocrine system off a little bit. One shot's not going to throw anything off, massively. But the bigger issue is that area will feel better, but it's still unstable. But he won't have the pain receptors for him to go, oh, I probably shouldn't do that. So like you have to kind of tell him, like, even though you feel good, you got to let this heal for about 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Because like, for example, like back in the 70s, they used to give that to athletes like it was orange juice. I mean, they would just, anything going on, they would, shoot up the area and call it good. And several guys had like fractures, like in their foot or in their knee or their thigh or something. And it would take all the pain out, and it was still unstable. And so they would just play on it like normal, and then it would continue to fracture and completely break. And it would be like a career-ending injury. And so there was many players that had these career-ending injuries because of they got some cortisone shots. And usually when the doctor gives you a shot, they have a little talk with you, like, just because it feels good, you need to still slow your jets there, Turbo. Like that exactly what a doctor told me one time when I got a check. Just slow your jets, Turbo. And I thought, oh, it's all in his head. And I went out and I was like, man, it felt amazing. And like within a week, when the shot started wearing off, I was like, I might have heard it a little bit more than it was even hurt when I got the shot. Like, it's, you don't feel it for a little while. And so it's not a made up thing. He really needs to like let that like calm down and heal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Like you almost need to scare him a little bit about it. I mean, I know Michael, he probably won't scare, but yeah.
Try to.
Yeah, at least try to.
So use the marjoram for how long on the back?
Until he feels better. Like, I mean, he could use that the rest of his life. Like there's certain things that, like, if you take it internal, you got to give yourself a break. Marjoram is not one of them. You could go crazy with that. Like it is good for so many different things. So just until he doesn't feel the need to use it anymore, I'd say that's what you do.
Should he use it internally also?
I mean, he could. He's going to get a lot more relief from it topically. But, if you wanted, he could take a little bit, like maybe at bedtime. It would deepen a little bit of the antispasmodic component, but topically is more of what you want here. Like, just, hit those areas. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell him hi for me too, by the way.
Okay. All right.
I haven't seen him in ages. Like, it's been, I think he stepped into a class one time, but we didn't talk. Like, he kind of stepped in and stepped out before I could say something, like a couple of years ago or something.
He wanted to come to the last class in Birmingham, but he had planned to go out of town that weekend.
Yeah, well, tell him hi for me.
Okay, thanks.
And then go ahead, Letty, then Sahaja.
Hey, Miss Letty.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay, so I had a question. So today was a really rough day at work. It was just, different things going on, but it ended kind of rough because we had a lockdown. People are gonna be like, where do you work at? Keep having all these crazy things happening at work.
What happened with the lockdown? Like, why was there a lockdown?
Because some kids were fighting, and then somebody pulled a gun, and then they were like looking for that kid that had the gun, But then, like with Happy New Uvalde, all the parents start coming.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy to see how the parents, like how they were acting, like they were, like it was like a riot outside the school. And I was like, and I'm happened to be like in the front where I can see things.
Mhm.
Maybe I shouldn't have seen it, but I did. So that affected me. But anyhow, so I was using some tarragon. But I was just going to ask you, like, just to disconnect everything from work, like, would Rue do it?
Rue might do it, but I like tarragon is good for stuff like that, but I would probably use benzoin in that. And the difference is, like, you can use both tarragon and benzoin for like situations where there's shock or a bit of agitation. And the difference being the benzoin helps you to put a little bit of distance, like it helps you to see the situation but at a distance, like you don't feel quite as entwined in the situation. And so I would do that. And then what else I would do is I would break out like either the etheric cord blend or ironbark eucalyptus and sit and inhale that, because parents, the children, other teachers, there's just cords happening everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
it was a bunch of octopuses running around the school after something like that happens, and you're just wrestling with all the different octopuses.
Yeah,
It's just
it was just awful to see how the parents behaved. They were like going at it with the police officers, and I was just like, oh my God.
I can imagine like both sides of it, like having to be the teacher there, but so many school shootings, like it would be hard for nobody to get like worked up about all of that on either side of the fence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I would have like a little kit ready to go for like if something like that happens, you can just walk over and grab your kit of like benzoin and etheric cords and I what else I would probably work in there is like after you've come through and done those two things is splendor. And the reason being that like splendor was originally made for PTSD and treating psychological things that were like trauma related, but like with flashbacks, like because not what I haven't talked about this too much, but sometimes what people call PTSD actually isn't like true PTSD, but you get it like there was an issue and it was really upsetting. Like, you know what I mean? And so it doesn't matter. Like sometimes it's some different mechanisms, like that it's being called by the proper name is not necessarily the point, but in a case like that, like you want to calm down like limbic responses, and that's part of what splendor does, is it just calms down all those like weird responses that come up in like a crisis situation, so that it's not going to treat everything, but it's going to calm everything down substantially. And then kind of over a period of time, I would use something like vital centers or lotus or something like that, just to kind of like reconfigure the emotional body a little bit. Because it's like you have a bunch of good days, and granted, you have a tough job where you're dealing with a lot of tough things, but you still have moments where there's good things. And then something like this happens, it can really skew all those other things. And the thing with Lotus is it helps to focus more, like put a greater emphasis on the good things and diminish the negative emotions on the limbic centers, right? So it basically helps you to see like, yeah, it was a bad day, but really overall good things were happening except for the weirdness today. And I mean, even if you want to look at like what happened, everybody got all worked up about it, but somebody pulled a weapon and they were on it. They were trying to, find them. They were on lockdown. You know, they had things in place that were positive. I mean, it's unfortunate that that kind of stuff even has to happen.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
but it just, like Lotus, for me, like when I think about it for myself, it's like it always just helps me to keep things like in perspective. Like not. Mm,
What's hard of it also is that you don't know what's going on
oh, totally.
until like
Yeah.
you have to wait for a while, you know, and then we could hear
Yeah.
the helicopter like literally right above us.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I
I was
can't
like,
imagine being in that situation. I mean, I've come out of events and things where there was gunfire and stuff, but I could jump in my car and drive away and then it was done. You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine being on a place where you're on lockdown, and yeah, that would be rough.
okay. So one of the other questions I had, Greg, was you know, the holidays are hard for you know, when you lose someone and then you have, you know, like when everything changes. So my daughter was kind of going through like a little bit of anxiety, and I know she has some oils, but I was wondering like what's going on with the anxiety, like if I wanted to help her with pH, like what is the
Yeah,
mechanism?
it's a little bit hard. Like you know, like anxiety can be a little bit hard to treat. Like, so one of the things that is like the inability to let go of something or discharge like lower emotions. And so I would come back to doing like, I mean, I'm not joking, like probably 15 to 20 minutes of just like health ray work. Like just go really deep into the body, do the inner health rays, the outer health rays, and not just a little bit from the body, but take it way far out. And then you know, because you could say there's lots of different approaches to like how to treat anxiety. And like sometimes like a way to say it, which is something I was starting to say a little while ago, was like it's almost like awareness, like you lose like the awareness and it kind of puts you a little bit in a frenzy, right? So you can use things that help stimulate a little bit more of sustained awareness, where basically you're observing your environment and going, oh, this isn't the crisis that I think it is, or oh, it's not a 911 situation, or oh, you know, it just helps you to like not think something bad's happening in the moment. But you almost really have to clean up the health rays quite a bit. And so, you know, there's the class that we did a couple of weekends ago. Even if you did that first segment, a lot of times it will diminish. But if she doesn't want to do that, do the health ray work with her energetically. And then things that help increase sustained awareness are cypress, a lemmy, and acacia. The cypress or the alemi, I would have them take internally. The acacia, I would have them inhale, but any of that's helpful. Palo Santo is good about just blowing things out of their field for anxiety and things like that. Melissa can be good, but
Like a drop or two of Palo Santo would just blow everything out of the solar?
yeah, probably a couple drops, or have her inhale it and then like on the thumb web right here.
Okay.
Like anything you put right there affects the solar plexus, front and back. And so it will blow stuff out. But my guess is it's congestion, and she's not able to like release like lower emotions and old memories, and so it builds up, and then you try to manage it. You know, so it's almost like
Okay.
letting things just kind of flow.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Greg.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Sahaja, then Robert.
Hi there, Greg.
Hey, Sanjananda. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. My internet's a little weird, so if I sort of break up, that's why. I'm calling with a question about my friend who I actually have talked to you about her a little, the one that she has mites and her whole family has been infected with these mites. And
Oh,
this is-
yeah. I remember this now. Yeah.
okay, yeah. If I keep talking, if I come back up. So I'm just reading stuff to you because this was texted to me. It's the cat, the dog, and especially my friend. And they've used essential oils, they've used clinical treatments, they've fogged the house with this mixture to get rid of the mites, bathing themselves and the animals with oil treatments, but the mites abate and then return. And so she asks, could you look at, especially my friend in particular, and see if there's a solution or if there's something else happening besides the mites, because they're now affecting or continue to affect her breathing and her skin. So I think
What's happening to the skin? Like, let's first start with the skin. Like, what's
Okay.
happening with
I
that?
didn't get that. All I got is that there's something happening with the skin. And, the mites are sort of eating her away is what I'm understand. Like what I heard was like they gotten into the pores of her hair follicles, and just sort of eating her. I know it sounds awful, eating her.
So like rashes and things like that.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is, and maybe it's itching as well. I mean, it sounds like it's systemic at this point. And
Yeah, I would do like for example, like several years ago there was that bed bug issue that broke out on the East Coast. If you remember that, and as much as we try to treat the bed bugs and everything, sometimes what you have to start doing, as you're trying to get rid of the bed bugs is treat the reaction in the body to minimize, because like sometimes those bed bugs or here the mites are biting one person and there's no reaction, and then the next person's having a horrible reaction, right?
right.
And so sometimes what's happening is that the bites or the exposure is causing a really bad allergic reaction.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's not that they're allergic to the mites, but the bites are just like messing with the immune system. And so I would probably have her do like 3 capsules of quercetin like every 3 or 4 hours. I mean, I would just have her like around the clock do it. Like take it as soon as she goes to bed, as soon as she wakes up, she pops 3 in, and like, so she might take like 15 capsules in a single day for a little bit. And then as everything calms down, taper down. Like if she just stopped, nothing bad would happen, but I would continue to taper down from that after the symptoms reduce, just to keep maintaining good, healthy immune response. But it sounds like she's like having an allergic crisis.
Yeah, I don't know. The sense is that there's something else maybe besides the mites, and maybe it is just an allergic reaction.
It sounds like if she's like they've done all that and they're still having some of those symptoms, it could be that the body is like having the allergic reaction, and the mites could be gone or mostly gone, but the I always refer to this as like they trashed the hotel room and then they left the hotel room and the hotel room's still trashed. Like somebody has to go through and like clean up the hotel room. And here it's the body. Like you have to really unwind some of those allergic responses sometimes. And so, I know one time I had a really bad allergic response to I got exposed to the roots of like poison oak. And everything that I like touched, vitamins, medications, anything that I took, I had an allergic reaction to. And I went through and I treated it for a couple of months. Tried all those same things again, no response. Like I had such a bad allergic reaction to the medication that the doctor gave me that I actually had a seizure. And they were like, you should never take this medication again. You know, I'm a goofy boy, so I treated the allergic reaction. I was like, yeah, let's just see. Dumb. I don't suggest that. You know, I was in my 20s. But yeah, I took the same medication again. No allergic response. Like not even a little bit. And so like sometimes like when you have like some weird exposure like that, it's really about just calming down that allergic response.
Uh-huh.
You know, you can use oils like Melissa or Greenland moss or something like that, but the quick and the fast thing to do is just get her to start just pounding the quercetin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause I think the concern is just keeps going on. They keep not going away. They have to keep repeating it. It's been over a month already,
Yeah.
like these major treatments and
But they can't see them. They're just gauging this on their body responses, or
yeah, at this point, I
yeah,
mean,
it might be an allergic reaction that they're managing now.
she's very sensitive and she can feel them in her body though. That's what she says is, she can feel them. She was doing lemon, what was it? One of the lemons and lemon balm, lemongrass, lemon
Mhm.
something. That was really helping her. But she said the minute she stopped doing that, she could just feel them coming back. And, and they're also treating their house with the cedar oil that they got, more chemical stuff.
Mhm. They can keep doing all that stuff, but like treat the allergic response.
Okay, so the quercetin is
Quercetin, like every like 3 or 4 hours. Like
Okay.
if she can handle it, I'd do every 3 hours. I mean, there's times where I've had people that had such bad asthma that I got a liquid quercetin, and I had them do it like every 30 minutes until the asthma calmed down. And then after that, I mean, we were doing it like every 2 hours, and then every 3 hours, and then every 6 hours, and like that.
Mhm.
And it's usually well tolerated, because it's crude vitamin C. So
Right.
you can put a kind of a bunch in, and the worst case scenario is if you take too much of vitamin C, it just makes you have a loose bowel movement.
Mhm.
And so I've never really had that happen with quercetin, but if she ended up taking too much quercetin, she would just, have a loose bowel movement, and then it would pass. So
So it's not going to be anything that's going to really upset her stomach. She's
Mm-mm.
very, very sensitive, as I
Yeah.
said.
I mean, she could do it with food, but it rarely, I can't think of a time where somebody's had an issue with it.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, keep me posted though.
I will. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
you're so welcome.
And go ahead, Robert.
Hey, Mr. Robert.
Hey, Greg, good evening. Someone already mentioned this, but I know there was more to it and I don't remember. A few weeks ago, you talked about Cedar MSM Body Tonic during study group, I think. And I put it on the list to order, and I ordered it, and it finally got here. And now I don't remember why I ordered it.
Yeah. I'm laughing because that sounds a little bit like something I would do. So lots of different things that it could do. Like probably a couple of weeks ago, if I remember right, we were talking about it probably a little bit more like a venous tonic, basically helping the function of the veins, especially blood returning to the heart. It does help with lymphatic movement, and in some cases, we've had it even lower blood pressure in some individuals. And so, because it's making the veins like function better. And like whenever you think of blood pressure, you're basically dealing with like fluid volume. Like it's not moving like it should. There's too much. It's getting stuck in parts of the body. It's some version of that. Now, granted, there's other things like hormones and things that can play a role in all that. I mean, blood pressure is very complicated, But you can use it for arthritic conditions. You can use it for, like Cindy was talking about, using it for immunity, like back issues, pain issues. With the MSM component too, it has a bit of a detoxifying effect in some of the joints and helping fluid retention, like and deposits in joints like breakdown. So you could put it directly on the spine or on a hip or knee or something like that. And then on top of all that, esoterically, cedar helps to mix the heart and the crown. Like, so it just, it allows for more soul energy to come into the physical body somewhat.
Okay, I'm writing fast. Great, thank you very much.
How's the grandbaby?
Wonderful. I should see her again in the next week or so.
Good.
Oh, and Deborah, thank you for that info. She said you mentioned Cedar MSN in Metatron class in the first 3 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. I don't even remember.
I don't either. Okay, thank you.
When you were talking to Letty about the lotus, what type of lotus?
Actually, any of the lotuses will work. Sometimes if I'm making a blend and I work a lotus in, I use a lotus that is a little bit more compatible with the other oils, but white, pink, or blue would all work. And ginger lily does it as well, but not quite as much. It usually needs to be one of the lotuses.
For this weekend's free study group, is there a suggested oil list for us to have available?
We're going to be talking about immunity and a little bit of respiratory stuff. So I would just say your oils that are related to immunity. You have your blends like immunity support, panacea, armor. You don't have to have all of them, just have a couple of handy. We're probably going to lecture a little bit more than practice and just talk some things out, but I am going to run you through some protocols. And then things like, have handy like eucalyptus or tea tree, neoli, thyme, cinnamon, just the good old fashioned bay laurel. Yeah, bay laurel, Ravensara, just the bread and butter immunity oils. Okay, so I think we have everybody's questions here. We're going to jump in and one more. Yeah.
Go ahead, Letty.
Hey, Letty.
Sorry, Greg, I just forgot to ask one more question. Do you know anything on, and I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce it right, but it's called adrenoleucotic strophy, something like that? Can I send it to her? To Sam?
Yeah, send it to her and I'll have to look at it and look it up or something. Sounds like it's something to do with the adrenals and either overdeveloped or underdeveloped.
Yeah, I know like the side effects are like, I guess you no longer can walk and your vision starts going and your hearing, like everything starts.
Send me the name of the condition and I'll go through and look it up and then I can give you a response. Yeah.
And I know it's related, like it's a genetic, it's like what they call X-linked. It's a genetic thing and it's mainly in men. Just wondered if you knew anything about it because I have a student that has that.
I'd have to look it up and see. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
You listed all those oils so casually. We didn't catch all of them.
Oh, yeah. So I'll go slower this time. Like thyme, oregano, no. I'm kidding. So any of the forms of thyme, things like Ravensara, tea tree, neoli, eucalyptuses, camphor, cinnamon, clove, bay laurel. You know, I also, for just because of some of the stuff that happens is respiratory in nature, like, you know, things like pine, terebinth, even helichrysum. You know, helichrysum can be good for reducing mucus in the lungs. It's not the best thing for it, but it's actually quite good for reducing mucus in the digestive tract and the urinary tract. And so just reducing mucus sometimes can increase and improve immune responses. Rosemary, basil, and then your blends like respiratory protection, immune support, panacea, armor. One that, you know, we always kind of forget to talk about, or at least I do, is the blend liberation. You know, I made it more for psychological reasons, but it's a very good blend for flus, you know, because it's cinnamon, clove, savory. Savory is amazing for infectious conditions, especially when you're in the middle of it. Not so much for prevention. It's more like when you're sick. And then one that I didn't mention, Monarda. Oh my God, what was I doing? I'm sleeping on the job. Monarda, Melissa.
Inula?
Yeah, Nula, Amivisnaga. You know, some of those are very specific to the respiratory tract, and some of them are for the immune response. You know, and one that we also forget about having, like kind of a gentle fortifying slash stimulating the immune response, but real gently, is vetiver. Vetiver is actually quite good for, you know, not just muscles and relaxing and soothing things, but it actually is an immune stimulant. And so it's very soft about it, but you know, I tend to use that in people with more like autoimmune type issues, where you can kind of support immune function without being overstimulating. But even when somebody has an autoimmune issue, you could still give them cinnamon, but you would just do it in lower dosages, spread out longer over a period of time. And you know, the great thing with cinnamon and cassia is they're overall body stimulants, plus they have anti-infectious components to them. And so they're always good. And another good body stimulant is peppermint. But even better in the mint family is forest mint. And forest mint doesn't quite have the menthol that the peppermint does, but it's a little bit better of a body stimulant. It's just not as good for treating pain. Like peppermint's really good for treating nerve pain, like peppermint and corn mint. But yeah, so anyway.
You can go ahead, Deborah.
Hey, Deborah.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm actually coming around here. Processed a lot of the stuff from Japan, and
Got over your jet lag and all that kind of fun stuff.
yeah, a lot of that. The thing that I'm really trying to work with now is the Metatron class, and it's amazing. Unfortunately, I'm a little slow getting through it.
That's okay.
But loving it, and I'm having, you know, issues with my psoas. I've had it for years, but it really flared up with the Japan trip. And I took some of what you said in that class. There were the two tonics or lotions that you put on. One, and the web protective. Well, I did a salt I did this today. I've been in such pain. Like I'm totally immobilized. I'm not cycling and getting active release technique applied.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to validate some of what you're saying for those others that I don't know. Not anyone, any of your followers don't have doubt about what you say, but just more appreciation. I took a salt bath with a CRC, and you had mentioned that in the Metatron class as far as I've gotten. And then got out of that and applied the two tonics, one with the oil base, that's the web protective, and the other one that comes first. And I can't think of the name of it. And then like I had to rush off to the ART treatment and I reapplied CRC directly on where the pain really, really is. Gone.
Oh, good.
Totally gone.
Good.
And just amazing because it's been so painful. It's like debilitating where I wake up crying. So, I mean, I know I'm going to have to reapply and do more applications, but you talked about it in this Metatron class. And I was so excited to be able to apply it to this particular situation. I had to share that with you. So thank you so much.
I'm glad you're getting some relief. And you know, the thing with the chakra root cleanser is, you know, it's a good etheric cleanser and cleans up the aura and things like that. But it also is a very deep lymphatic stimulant, which, you know, dealing with the psoas, I mean, it's one of the really deep muscles in the low back. But also, like whenever you're putting chakra root cleanser on, it actually helps increase flexibility in the area that you use it. And, you know, over a period of time, we know a physical therapist that she basically measures these things on the machines with amateur and pro athletes. And she said it's a substantial increase. Like they'll measure the range of motion and then put it on, and all of a sudden there's a big jump up in that range of motion. And so, you know, it just shows like how intertwined our lymphatic system is with the nervous system and the ability to like let a muscle kind of relax. And part of it is the combination of things. You know, there's a lot of mugwort and artemisia in there to have energy flow. There's hyssop in there that, you know, relaxes the diaphragm and the spinal muscles. And one oil that we don't really talk about very much, except for like, you know, maybe eczema and things like that, is kunzea. And kunzea is actually has been studied in Australia, and their equivalent of the FDA, you know, allows like for anecdotal information, especially when it comes from physicians, to be used as like, you can say this treats something, right? And so kunzea is allowed, you know, for companies making products and things in Australia. You can say it treats eczema, and it increases flexibility in the muscles around compromised like joints or injuries or arthritis, anything of that nature. And so you know, anything that where the muscle is starting to like kind of cramp up or you know, like especially when the psoas is tight, sometimes it's a little bit hard to like straighten up all the way or lift your leg up. It should help all of that. You know, it's not going to be the thing that it does it all on its own, but if I remember right, it's protective web liniment body tonic that's in that class. I think so.
Yes.
And then followed by the poplar balsam CO2, which is not our normal poplar balsam. You know, we tracked down like a CO2 version of it, and I made that super strong. So it's very good for the body. It's very good for muscle. You know, I wouldn't say like, oh, you put that on and it makes the pain go away, but it makes everything like function better. And a lot of times it takes like some of my achiness and pain away. You know, so it's one of the things I have like on the nightstand that, like, if I'm having one of those days, I throw some of that on. And the combination of all three of those, I mean, I would keep using all that. I would probably do some inhalations with maybe like some hyssop, just to try to keep the spine from from tightening up so much. The lumbar is a little bit harder. I mean, it can still be done, but sometimes the lumbar is can also be like the knees and the hamstrings. And so I would say even put a little bit of the chocolate root cleanser on the hamstrings, or you use clipless pedals, yeah? Like you're using clipless pedals.
Yes.
Okay, so your hamstrings, especially your lower hamstrings, need a little work and a little maintenance, like just
Yes.
because of it's great to be cleated in on the bike, but it also is hard on that lower part of the hamstring. And
Yes.
so because you're engaging the pedal stroke in a way that's not a way that you would use the muscle any other way. And so you're doing a different kind of motion there. And so marjoram can be good there, but you know what I like to use there is the different peppers, like pink pepper, black pepper, white pepper, the pepper supreme, like any kind of version of that. And I would just rub it on knee, like put several drops in your hand and go from like the crease of the knee about that high up, like across that low knee area. And it's not going to fix anything, but it makes things a little bit looser. It releases some of the fascia. It gets more blood going into that area, because what happens over a period of time is that area gets like fascial restrictions, and the blood flow to the short head of the bicep femoris and the lower part of the long head of the bicep femoris almost start to turn, like when you get in there and you palpate them, like if you can, but like if you really dig in there and palpate them, they almost feel like bone. Like they get so dense, because they're such a strong muscle. They can get really, really super tight. And the way to check that is, boy, I'm going on a tangent. Like, well, might as well.
Well, I hope other people appreciate it, because I'm loving it. Thank you.
So the way that you can really tell when you have when you're starting to have a little bit of an issue with the hamstring is like when you're standing and you're not really thinking about it, and you're standing, for you to like stand and be relaxed, your legs are a little bent. You know what I mean? Like the knee is a little flexed. Like you don't stand with your leg completely straight. It's like you flex them a little bit and you go, huh. Like when that starts to happen, you are having issues with the hamstrings. Like speaking from personal experience, like it is like it needs to really be treated. And eventually what happens is it starts to impact this little muscle behind the knee that kind of comes up and around the knee. And it's what initiates the movement up. And so cyclists, soccer players, and tennis players are especially prone to issues in this little muscle. And eventually what happens is it gets irritated and it starts to blunt the back end of the meniscus. And so it doesn't tear anything, but it just starts blunting off this little piece of the meniscus. And, over 10, 20, 30 years, it starts to become a bit more of an issue. And so the more that you can keep blood going into that back area, it's almost like preventing a potential injury. It doesn't mean that you're going to have an injury, but you start to have like a greater potential for an injury there. And so usually it's like low back, like an SI joint or a psoas issue. And I would say everybody has a psoas issue. It's just to what degree. But cyclists can be more prone to a psoas issue. definitely. Like, again, soccer players, tennis players, sometimes golfers will have issues, but usually with a golfer, they only have an issue on one side, where like the other ones, it's usually unilateral. And so, yeah, you just do some maintenance on that. I mean, I don't think you need to stop or do anything, but, make sure you always fit on your bike really well, not too hunched over, not too way too high up, and leg extension is good, all the stuff you already do, but yeah.
Well, it sounds like we need to get you on a bike soon.
I don't know. My doctor told me no more of that like long time ago.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Laura, then Denise.
Hi,
Hey,
Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. I really enjoyed the class on the weekend.
Oh, good.
I at one point you said that Samantha had just gone out, and it was when we were using the oil mind, and I had just dropped, Samantha, I had just dropped mine straight down my shirt. Is there an alternative for that, or just order the mind? Does the mind?
We'll just send you a little replacement, but let's get you an alternative. Let's make a note to send her a little replacement for that.
Oh, you don't need to do that, because I've got some other stuff I'm ordering. So, but is that something that that you think is that? Tell me a little bit about mind is what I would like for you to do.
Let me look it up, and I can tell more when I look at the formula.
Because I found it really attractive, and
yeah, it's
out.
The original reason that I made it was meditation on the blue pearl, like helping prepare the brain and the mind for greater activation of the mental permanent seed up in the head. But I found that it actually did other things. But like when I made it, I wasn't really thinking about any of that. Let me run this down somewhere. I'm a little bit of a goofball. Like I have recipe books for so many different things. I have to run it down.
Letty may have it. She has a recipe that says Ami Visnaga, Champaka,
That sounds like
Cistus, Neroli, Poplar Balsam, and Swazi Valerian.
for the mind.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's probably it.
So there's not really an alternative. Just go ahead and get that.
And
It sounds like it's worth it.
You could use spikenard or valerian. Boy, I was swinging big with champaka, wasn't I? Give me just a sec here. I think it's in the esoteric
recipe book.
This is a little bit of welcome to my world. Like sometimes in the middle of blending, I have to sit and find out where I put something.
So what you're saying is you use it for other things besides just.
Yeah, I was using it for some psychological healing, and at first we were using it just for meditation, but then I started venturing into some esoteric practices, and then I started using it for psychological healing. And I think at one point I was actually even using it in some pain syndromes because of, like in pain syndromes, especially when they're chronic, is the instinctive mind gets over agitated, and then it's like then it starts to go up and cause a chain reaction up into the mind. And they go through and they document this in orthodox medicine, but they usually don't do a whole lot about it, except just usually prescribe like antidepressants or things like that. But I find that if you use things like Gilead and things like Mind and stuff like that, you can really keep a lot of that stuff at bay. And so I explored several different things, but valerian and spikenard, just even by themselves, will usually reduce the pain response, kind of similar to like how we use galbanum and myrrh, but it's actually not so much like the myrrh and the galbanum are targeting more the limbic responses, where your spikenard and your valerian are hitting some different parts of the nervous system, and they're also calming and soothing part of the immune system. And so you could almost like kind of, if you hit all those blanket things, I was just doing this in my notes the other day. Like I just do these things where I do these like brain dumps, and part of why I can always find the recipes right off the bat. But I was just looking at, like, if you took away the topical kind of component of treating pain, and you just looked at it like, okay, the pain mechanisms in the body, like without treating the specific pain, like how good could you get at treating pain mechanisms before you even got to the location of the problem, right? And so the ones that come up are like the myrrh, the galbanum, spikenard, valerian, Gilead, that core breath, like the Mind. There was this one blend, Aegis, Nerve Help. There was that one that's I think we named it NPR. Is that one? Which is Neuroprotective Response. Variations of these combinations almost can take enough of the pain out that when you get to the actual site of the pain, it's so reduced that it becomes very easy to treat, and you don't have the neurological, lower emotion, instinctive responses that happen with chronic pain over a period of time. And in the nerve pain arena, the thing that you're trying to avoid is bronchial spasms, like bronchial spasms and spasms in the trachea, and because that will just start exaggerating everything. And so the thing with like arthritic conditions is you want to keep lymphatic movement happening. And so if muscles contract, or if the diaphragm gets tight, or there's a lot of spasms, or in the muscle or in the tissue, it doesn't allow the lymphatic system to function well. So you're not really going to like a exact symptom. You're just trying to make the body function better so that it can handle the problem better. And so any combination of that is quite helpful. Like, just the myrrh and the galbanum usually nails it, but the spikenard and the valerian, like on the feed, inhaled, a few drops internally, can hit some different components. And then the Gilead was made for releasing the lower emotions. That was a direct result of pain, way back in the day. And I started playing with the idea of the Mind blend to do some of that as well. It just feels good. Like at first I was like, man, this really helps my meditation. But I started noticing, like, whenever I was playing with it, my aches and pains didn't quite have the edge that they normally did. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. And then I started paying attention to it. I was like, I haven't even thought about my aches and pains for a few days, and I have like structural problems where, muscles were torn and, bones were broken so many years ago that, there's structural issues that are always having to be addressed. And I'll go days sometimes without thinking about it when I stay on top of the routine. And so, I was supposed to have the surgery probably, it's like 33 years ago or something. I was told that within 6 months, I probably would have a hard time standing for more than 5 or 10 minutes. And, I can feel it sometimes, but I've had enough surgeries. I don't need to throw a couple more on there. And so if I can avoid it, I can. And it's been 3 decades. So, all those little tricks are the things that help. And, if it helped you like mentally, great. But a lot of times I feel that it even helps me physically.
Thank you.
Does that help? What was your experience? I'm just curious.
Well, we were just doing the protocol and it just knocked me out. Like I said, I dropped it down the front of my shirt. It was a really, so I didn't, to be honest, I didn't really remember all the details.
Well, did it knocked you out? Because like if you think of like what pain is doing, pain is telling your nervous system you have an issue, you need to go into fight and flight. Like you have to protect the body. You have to, there's something that is sending up a red alert. And so like when you have a response like that, it's most likely it probably calmed some of those mechanisms down, because a lot of times when you're in like you have chronic pain or it might not always be even painful, but your body might be managing, but it's sending so much extra sensory nerve activity up to the brain that like you quiet it all down, and it's literally like your muscles relax, your nervous system relaxes, and that is the mechanism that happens when you start to fall asleep. And so like when you find something like that really hits those things that kind of makes you a little sleepy or something, man, I would jump all over that and use it for either relaxing the body, going to sleep, because that is the issue also with chronic pain, is that it eventually throws off the sleep cycles. And so chronic pain eventually turns into a sleep disorder. And if you find something that really can calm you down in all of that, because it's not always the same from person to person. And so, boy, I would work that, even if it's one of the single oils, the spikenard, the valerian. Swazi is actually kind of nice for something like that. We don't really talk about it in Swazi very much, but Swazi is a little bit hard to work with because it's like really thick and sticky. And so a lot of times if you're just inhaling it out of the bottle, it's one thing, but to get it into a blend and use it on the body, it's a little bit hard to work with. But
well, and more than the physical stuff, I think I had busy mind because of issues that I was trying to work with, and and it really settled that down immediately.
So that right there is why I made it in the first place. Like the like the brain and the mind, so that you could sit down and do meditation or the blue pearl or something like that. I used to refer to myself as King Monkey Mind. Like I just my mind was just always like bap, 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 bap. And I needed a way to like calm down to meditate, because I'd sit down to meditate and everybody would have blissful experiences, and I was like, yeah, I feel relaxed, but I just feel like I feel right now. Like my eyes are closed, like I'm getting to take a break for 15 minutes, but like I wasn't getting the experience that everybody was. So I started trying to make things to like, I want a little bit of that blissful thing that everybody else is like talking about all the time. And so that was one of the things that I put in motion for that. I mean, like literally quieting the mind down was what that was for. Yeah. I started finding that it worked for some pain syndromes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Denise.
Hey, Denise.
Hi. Well, I wanted to thank you for the suggestion for the front of my leg and how things were kind of wrapping around. And I still have a little bit of residual, but
Oh, yeah. It was some sciatica, yeah?
well, you weren't sure. You said it might be, but it didn't
It
sound
sounded like it, yeah.
Yeah. But I used the marjoram and I used galbanum. I muscle tested between the lavender and galbanum, and the galbanum was the one that kept coming up. And I love that combination. So I'm going to have to definitely get more of that. But what about the quiet mind? What was that just called? The one you were talking about is.
Well, I think there's one just called Mind, and then there's one called Quiet Mind. And I think the one that was in the class, wasn't it just Mind?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just Mind.
Okay.
Quiet Mind was one that I made quite a bit ago that was more for endocrine function, like, calming down the glands. Like sometimes the glands, they communicate in a way that even when other things are quieting down, the glands take a long time to kind of catch up with that. And so Quiet Mind was made specifically for helping to regulate the endocrine system, but Mind was just calm the brain and the monkey mind and all of that down. And so if you're shooting for endocrine function, Quiet Mind, and I apologize that they're so close at name. Like sometimes I make things and name it and I forget that I've made something else. But the Mind is the one that we were just talking about, where it's just calming and soothing to the body, to the brain, and to just the mental faculties.
Well, I'm still dealing with my son's issues, so I'm tired. So I think the mind might be the one.
Mind might be a nice one for you to do. And we can always do it in like a smaller bottle. So if you just want to check to see like, hey, I want to see if this works.
When I place
I don't think it's horribly expensive, but like it does have champaka in it, which is a little pricey, but all the other things aren't, so it shouldn't be too bad. But if ever you want to try something, just get like a little 2 ml bottle of it, and then if you like it, you can get a bigger. And like with the 2 mls, we try to like price it so that it's not like you're going to get a big price break from going from 2 to 5. I try to like price it accordingly, so there's no like price penalty for getting a smaller amount, you could say. Like you just break it down, and we just price it out by mil and do it pretty close to the same price.
Thank you. I have no cinnamon. Which cinnamon would you recommend? Because I do want to place this order, and I'm going to try to get to class.
Like cinnamon leaf is a good, solid, well-rounded. Cinnamon bark can be a little too much. Cassia is real super similar to cinnamon. Like you could almost use them interchangeably, but I tend to go cinnamon leaf because I like it. It's very stimulating and is soft enough to be well tolerated, where cinnamon bark sometimes not the case. The issue with cassia sometimes is it has a slight effect on thinning the blood that the cinnamon leaf doesn't. And so I usually tend just to go cinnamon leaf just cause like it's the cassia is not going to cause any problems, but it's not that much of a blood thinner. But I just tend to go cinnamon leaf personally.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Oh,
I think was she the one where I was saying don't compress on the so like when I think we relayed this to you like in a email or something, but so when that gets really inflamed, like most spots in the body, like if you had like a cramp or a spasm, you go, use like one of those foam rollers or like a tennis ball or something to try to like decompress to get that to relax. But with the sciatic nerve and that piriformis that goes across the butt cheek there, when it gets irritated and you compress on that piriformis there, a lot of times it will aggravate the sciatic nerve. And so I am, just letting it calm down. Like you could do it on the side of the leg, but don't do it on the butt cheek, like when it's really inflamed. Like it can get really, like sensitive's not the reactive. It can get really reactive, like on the butt cheek itself. So you could treat down the leg really well, but it's best just to topically treat those areas until it all calms down.
I would have to agree. Something
Yeah.
inside knew, honestly, it would take me to tears.
Yeah.
Everything inside of me said, I just
Yeah.
couldn't do that. Now,
Yeah.
maybe after some of your treatment for a while, maybe,
Right. Yeah, after it comes down, you could do it. But like when it's in like the kind of crisis mode where you're in a lot of pain, even if the pain's not on the site and further down the leg, putting pressure on that more times than not, it will aggravate it pretty substantially. And because that nerve is being compressed on a bone, it's a whole nother level of pain. Like, it can be incredibly debilitating. And the thing with that sciatic nerve is it's one of the few nerves in the body that actually has some immune cells on it. And so it really starts to throw off like the immune response and lymphatic function. And like over a period of time, if it doesn't get resolved, you actually start to develop like allergies, and like it just causes these like weird reactions in the body that you would not put to the hip and back pain. And so it's one of those ones where you just got to stay really on it for a little bit until it's really resolved. Yeah.
When I asked you for help, I was just beginning not to be able to sleep. It was so painful. It was waking.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Very good. Oh, thank you so much. And Samantha as well. And I'll get this done. But maybe should I wait till the weekend till we kind of see what comes up on the weekend too?
I would probably get it in before the weekend because we're going to be on the road for a little bit. And so, people will still be here to fill orders, but if there's something special, I won't be able to do it till I get back.
Okay,
And
I'll get it done.
Yeah, I would probably get it in. And I mean, I think the stuff from the weekend for the Saturday, we're not putting any like new products forward. I want to really keep talking about the things that we've been using. And so, if you just have some of those oils, you should be kind of good to go for immune function.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the help. I appreciate it.
We really just want to keep reiterating like the things to do for immunity, because I mean we're going through cold and flu season. So, we were talking about like what to focus in on the end of the year, and that's why we kind of set the angel practice aside for a little bit. And it's like, I love the angel practice, but bread and butter, like you just got to treat the immune system during this time. I mean, we've had too many weird winters over the last few years, and so let's just treat this so that we all can just like rest at ease a little bit and not get sick. I mean, it already seems to be better than it was last year, but still, You just never know. And so let's just get a couple of years under us where nothing weird happens, and then we can, not be so concerned about wintertime.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you guys helping boost us.
Yeah, thank you.
And then we do have 2 questions.
Yeah, fair away. Yeah, fair away.
Any suggestions for a very hardworking and disciplined lifelong Crohn's disease 40-year-old man?
Like when you say hardworking, do you mean like working really long hours or?
Yes, he works very hard. He's very high up in Deutsche Bank, so he has where he makes the deals between banks making loans to each other. He's very disciplined, and he's learned that even though the rest of them can party, he has to stop at like 10:30 or whatever and go home and go to bed, and he does. and he gets up and he exercises and he meditates, and he would be very good with doing energy work. He's asked for it. He's very good. He's very willing to use oils within reason.
How does he handle stress, Babette?
The short answer is he handles it well, and he internalizes the trauma because part of his job is being calm, collected, and mental.
That's what I suspected. Yeah, okay. I mean, you nailed it. So,
and he's open to almost anything, because like I said, he actually got a scholarship, an athletic scholarship with Crohn's disease to Harvard, no less.
First, what I would do is I would just like clean him up for a little bit, because like the issue with the kind of work that he's doing is he's got so much stuff from other people and such high levels of stress and connections with other people that, like, when you're dealing with people that have either a lot of people pulling on them or that are high profile, it's like it's a little bit of a different animal, because their energy bodies are a lot more congested because of, you know, everybody looking at them, thinking at them, pulling on them, all that. And given that what he's dealing with is also intense with a lot of things going on, and like you said, when there's a crisis, he has to be the calm one that everybody kind of looks to, or he's the one kind of fixing all of that. I would go pretty hard with cleaning up his cords.
Okay.
And I would throw a curveball in there, you know, like there's the first part of that Phoenix technique, that first segment. I mean, you could do that, but I would go like etheric cords, protective web, and I would go really hard on something like stress ease. Like, you know, most people, like when we talk about like, oh, this person's stressed out or that person's stressed out, about half of the stress that they have is theirs, and some of that is coming from their body, not necessarily the emotions or their mind. The other half is from other people. A guy like that, probably 80% of his stress is from other people.
And he's very aware of that too. He can feel them when they
you need to clean all that up, because all of that is making his body not function well. And so
and that's a pH thing?
No, I would do the thing that we're talking about, use the etheric cords, and honestly, this is going to work way better than the energy work. Like the etheric cords, protective web, and like stress ease. And he doesn't even have to follow a pattern. He can just inhale and then go to the next one. Inhale, you know, like 10, 15 times, and then 10, 15 times, and then the next one, 10, 15 times, and then cycle back through. And he could take salt baths in all three of those, like, you know, one at a time. But like, you know, one night do the etheric cords blend, and next to the protective webs, and then at some point the stressies. And like if he cycled through with that, like for one, it would clean him up, it would help him to feel better. That would make energy circulate in his body to a much higher degree, and it will make everything else going on in his body easier to treat. But I would also say that some of his symptoms would probably diminish just with that treatment.
Okay, thank you.
If you wanted to give him like something a little extra to do instead of a pattern, have him do that thing like we do in Lama Yoga, where like, be aware of your body, find a part in your body where it feels a little weird, and then, you know, where your attention's drawn, and then inhale with your awareness on that spot. Don't even direct him to the chakras. Just like, actually, that part about going into the body is stronger than treating the chakras. It's just, it's much harder to direct, but that's why we've been kind of playing with both. If you do that and then eventually go to the chakras, oh man, it's really powerful. But at first you just get them to inhale, and then after a while you get them to do the patterns maybe, but simple version is just have them inhale for a little while and then switch over just being aware of their body. And when people are in situations where they really have to suck it up and not react or not like stay calm, and I don't know if he would call what he does like a crisis, but like there's probably times of a crisis, but like in the business, you know what I mean? A lot of the thought energy gets physicalized in the body. And so for him to be able to spend time putting his awareness on his body, like he's having to ignore that to be able to perform like he does, right? So this is almost like going back like and saying, okay, situation's over, now let's unwind some of that. Does that make sense?
It does. And as Robert said, I'm writing as fast as I can. Situation is over now. And so it was situation is over now. I could work about.
He's got probably decades of those situations. You don't even have to have him like focus on any of it. Like he just needs to unwind the last couple of decades more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course he's a son-in-law to the general, so he's got that on him as well.
The general. Oh, your sister.
Yeah, right. Right. It's like
it took me a minute to process that.
and he's just starting to hit that age where it was fine when he was 16. It was good when he was 25. Good when he was 35, and now he's pushing 40. And mother-in-law.
Youth supports you until you're about 32, and then youth goes, okay, I'm out of here. You're on your own. And like things start to shift and change as you get in your 30s, but then after that, it just, you don't have youth backing you up like you did when you were young, you know?
Yeah, that's very much where he's kind of, and he's like I said, he's very smart. He recognizes that if he wants to see his girls grow up, he's going to have to take care of all this stuff now.
Got to get old with that body. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking stresses, etheric cords, protective wedge. Inhale each, salt bath with each in rotation, and to do the Lama yoga, and then body awareness.
You don't even have to have him do you don't even have to have him do the head movements. Just like having him be still, be aware of his body, and just go, okay, just sit with your body, feel an area where it jumps out at you, like there's a tension, a ache, a pain, and then just have him sit and just be still with it, and then start inhaling the oil. Especially the protective web for that. Especially the protective web.
Okay. Now, I do think that he would actually, he's very exercise oriented, tremendously. So he might actually enjoy Lama yoga as something that would be physical. Should I not suggest that, or just wait for next year?
The only reason why I hesitate, I mean, I think it could be good, but the only reason I hesitate is you want these other things to become like a routine. And if you give them too much at once,
right. Yes, sir.
The routine kind of falls away. So like, yes, I'd rather see him do less over a longer period of time than a whole bunch and then stop.
Okay, and I'll just suggest that there are other things that we'll do as soon as this is.
Let this make him feel better, and then go. Exactly. Would you like to do a little extra? Like we can do more. You know what I mean? Like this is what I always call like trying. Like when I think of my family or something, it's trying to get the squirrel to get out of your hand. You don't make any sudden movements. You don't make a lot of eye contact. You just kind of like, okay, there's some thoughts there, like, you know, and. Even though he's all into it, it's still holistic practices are very different than orthodox medicine because they're based on repetition. You know, they're based on repetitive thing, and a lot of times when we grow up with just orthodox medicine, it's like I want to take a pill, I want to make it go away, I don't have to think about it anymore, right? And this starts to be a little bit more of a lifestyle kind of thing where you're just integrating this little piece into his lifestyle. And so just let him have like little pieces, let him digest, and then eventually give him something a little more.
And he's fixing to go to Christmas with everybody, including the 5-day-old new baby. Any like quick fixes for that? Like have him keep Menard in his pocket or basil in his pocket or something like that.
What's the concern? What's the issue?
Oh, just that he's fixing to go where there are going to be six kids under 3.
Oh, I see.
All the in-laws and
Yeah,
the father-in-law that's maybe a skunk. And I mean, they have a higher opinion of him. But anyway, there's going to be a lot of family and all of that with Christmas.
Yeah, like Monarda or something just to stimulate the immune
Okay.
system. And
Okay.
yeah.
All righty. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good to hear from
I'm
you.
looking forward. I've enjoyed all the classes so much, and I'm really looking forward to even Saturday. Thank you, Greg.
You're so welcome.
I have bone marrow edema in my knee, where if I sit for a while, I am in extreme pain for a short while when I stand and have difficulty walking for about 30 seconds. Are there any oils that would help?
I mean, right off the bat, I would go to, boy, how bizarre is that? We were going to do a thing today on the bone marrow. Like, that's bizarre that this is being asked. But for edema on the knee, I mean, the way that I would try to approach this is things that are anti-inflammatory, but the one that's that shines well for something like this, for like knees and back, hips, things like this, is German chamomile. And, you can mix it in with other things, but the thing is it helps to reduce the inflammation. It does have an impact on the bone marrow, like the production of blood cells. But also it helps to disperse fluid better than anything else. Like, so when there's a lot of edema or inflammation on an area, not just fluid retention, like in the legs, but like when you have a spot where there's a lot of swelling, German chamomile helps to reduce the swelling and then disperse the inflammation so that the body can absorb it. Anytime you have something like this, you also want to look at improving lymphatic function in the area. Things like bay laurel or lymphatic blend in and around those areas. It could be rotated, but you would want to also go a little bit lower than the knee and a little bit higher up the thigh. But anytime you have edema or swelling or a joint that's compromised, there's always going to be like compromised lymphatic function in the area, which then keeps making that situation worse. The chakra root cleanser is also a deep lymphatic stimulant. And so instead of like the lymphatic blend, I'd probably go chakra root cleanser with that. Like rotate chakra root cleanser and the German chamomile and see how that treats you. And also, you can do the deep breathing with the oils, but even from time to time, even without the oils, just to take some long, slow, deep breaths, just to try to help the lymph move. Be sure you're drinking plenty of water, things like that. And all of that should help move that. But yeah.
Last one. How do you prevent other people's stress from affecting you?
Well, the first way is to become a monk and live at the top of a mountain and never interact with anybody. I keep trying to do that, but no, it's hard because, even if the stress is not directed at you, it could be a city, it could be an office, it could be whatever. You can a lot of times are swimming in the the stress of everybody. And even though it might not be directed at you, you're still impacted by it. And so, if it's a situation where there's a lot of interaction with people, I would use the kind of the thing that we were talking about with Babette, where you use the etheric cords blend and the protective web, and then use something like the stressies or the de-stress to help flush some of that out. But if it's not that you're having to interact with a bunch of people, but just environments, the city, the office, the family, whatever it is, and there's stress, then I would do like the health rays and the spasmophilia combined. Part of what happens with the stress response is energy is not flowing in and out of our system quite like it should if we look at it from an energetic point of view. And so a lot of times if you just open up the health rays and the inner health rays, the stress response will change, So I would suggest that. I would also suggest putting some spikenard on your feet, like every night as you go to bed, like between the toes, on the soles of the feet, even a couple drops internally. And you could do the sustained inhalation with the spikenard every night as you go to bed. But even if you don't do it with spikenard, still apply it all those places. But if you do the same kind of breathing where you're doing the abdominal breathing and you do that every day, it actually changes your stress response. Like it will diminish the reaction to other people's stress. It does discharge some of other people's stress, but it helps you to temper the stress that you're exposed to a little bit better. It usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks for it to really, if you just did the breath, it would take 3 or 4 weeks for it to really sink in. But the combination of the oils in that, you should start to notice a difference within a few days and a week. I mean, there's always exceptions to situations like that where you might have to do something a little different or a little more. External situations can be different, and then also people's exposures to stress over a period of time can be different, and so it can put the body in sort of like sometimes there's like a toxic level of stress that then starts to kind of shut down body processes and make things get sluggish. And so on that note, there are things to flush the stress out. But some of it can just be like if you feel the body is getting sluggish, I would go to like cinnamon leaf, and you don't even have to direct it to a body part. I would just every morning and maybe at lunchtime, just long, slow, deep breaths with the cinnamon, and like 15 to 20 breaths. And 15 to 20 breaths. And then even a couple of drops internally in the morning. And the thing is for one, it's like a body stimulant, like all the different systems. If they are sluggish, cinnamon will help jumpstart those systems, but it also makes you a little bit more thick-skinned. Like it makes it harder for other people's stuff to kind of penetrate and get in your energy body to the same degree. So.
Great
Yeah.
session, guys.
Okay, so let's jump into doing a little bit for immunity. And we were actually going to do a thing for strengthening the bone marrow so that it increases blood cell production for immunity. And so here it would be increasing the potential for white blood cells. So here again, some form of thyme, cinnamon, oregano, camphor, immune support, Panacea, Armor. And if you don't have those, like Naoli would probably work. Even tea tree, something like a eucalyptus, but the ones I mentioned first, those would be your top choices.
And I didn't get all those and I tried.
Thyme, cinnamon, oregano, and camphor. And then immune support, Panacea, and Armor.
Great.
And the big focus here is on the basic chakra, which would be bone, muscle, blood. But we're also going to hit some of the other centers just to distribute the energy throughout the body and hit all the areas. Okay, so begin inhaling. And your awareness is on the bottom of the tailbone. Long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the bottom of the tailbone. Long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the tailbone, the basic chakra. You're still in the basic chakra. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Yeah, sure. You're still on the bottom of the tailbone. Long, slow, deep breaths. And then move your awareness up to the low back area, the Ming Men, opposite your navel. This will help to distribute prana up to the upper part of your body and up to the bones up in the upper part of the body. And then move your awareness to the navel. Your awareness is on the navel. And move your awareness to the front solar plexus. That should be able to do that. And then the back solar plexus, the middle of the back. Mhm. And then just be still. And then just be still for a moment. Just be still. Begin inhaling again. Your awareness is on the basic. Your hips, the sides of your hips. And then the knees, especially the back of the knees. The ankles. The soles of your feet. The armpits. The elbows. The wrists. The palms of the hands. And then just be still. Keep your eyes closed and just be still. Samantha said, I have energy again. It's strengthening to the body, it's strengthening to the basic chakra, but you're also trying to strengthen the process that has to do with the production of blood cells. And so when you hit the basic and then the Ming Men shoots the energy up to the upper centers, but part of what it's doing, it's putting energy into the bone and bone marrow to a certain extent. And so let's go ahead and just top that off a little bit. Just begin inhaling again. Your awareness is on the tailbone, the basic chakra. Keep inhaling. Your awareness is on the basic chakra. And then just be still and just let it go for a moment. This is something that you could do on a daily basis. Like this is something that could be not so much for prevention, but in the middle of an infection, or when you come like out on the other side of it and the body's still not feeling that great, but the infection's over, this could be a good thing to do. So we have the Metatron study group tomorrow night, and then we have the one-day study group on Saturday, which is free to everybody. Even if they've never had a class, they could still take the class. So you want to offer it to somebody, feel free to offer it up. And then, next week we'll still be doing our Tuesday night, Wednesday night thing. And Wednesday is the solstice. And so we will be doing a special Metatron practice that night. And then we'll also be doing a solstice meditation / blessing with Astara. So right after Metatron, if you feel like joining us, you can join us there as well. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you on the weekend. And if not, we'll see you maybe next week.